This week marks the 75th anniversary of the Normandy landings.
And Local 10 is the one and only news station to travel to France right now, covering this historic event. Our co-anchor, Nicole Perez, is joining us from Paris with a preview.
We have just arrived in Paris in front of the iconic Eiffel Tower as we get ready to head to Normandy to see how the coast of France is getting ready to commemorate the 75th anniversary of D-Day. We're also going to give you a look back at Local 10's first visit here, and we met a man on our flight to Paris who's going to take part in the parachute jump from a C-47 plane this week. We've arrived in Paris for the 75th anniversary of D-Day, the city getting ready to welcome thousands of people from all over the world to witness the ceremonies commemorating one of the last times some World War II veterans will be able to reunite.
You can't compare to the men who fought in World War II, quite frankly.
While waiting for our flight, we met Stanley Bunner from Naples. He's been in the military for 32 years and will be jumping out of a C-47 plane in Normandy.
And my knees tremble. I tell people it's the wind blowing through my pants. It's actually my knees trembling. But when it's time to go out that door, you know, you go and you exit that aircraft and you do what you got to do, and you land on the ground. It's one of my favorite things to do.
A generation of men we owe everything to. Stanley says nothing compares to what those men went through.
These guys were overseas for years at a time in combat for lengths of time that we don't even imagine today, and we don't even experience that. And I don't think you can overestimate the debt that we owe those gentlemen.
35 years ago, Local 10's very own Ann Bishop traveled to Normandy for the 40th anniversary.
For the veterans who are coming here, this is a terribly exciting time. We've talked to many of them in South Florida who are preparing to come over here to relive the longest day.
She had the chance to interview several veterans in South Florida who fought during the Normandy landings. Veterans we tried to find, but sadly are no longer with us.
They said, "This is it. We're going to Normandy." Most people didn't know what was coming because it was, for all us, a new experience.
We were all gung-ho at that time and fighting for America and all, and young kids, and I really enjoyed it.
Anne started in Paris and made her way to Normandy, toward the cemetery, the beaches along the coastline of France where most of the casualties occurred during the battle, and reconnected with some of the veterans in France.
It's impossible to come here without an almost overwhelming feeling of sadness at the terrible loss of life. But there's also a certain amount of pride over what was accomplished.
It's a very stirring moment for me. I'm deeply moved because in this cemetery are a lot of our men from my unit that we lost at that time, and it's very poignant to come back and to be a part of all of this.
And sadly, also no longer with us, but left a trail of amazing stories of men who left every last blood, sweat, and tear on the battlefield. A trail we now get to follow and tell the stories of the few remaining World War II heroes. We got a chance to speak to a few World War II veterans before we left home, and you're going to hear their stories all throughout the week. For now, we are going to make our way to Normandy for the 75th anniversary of D-Day. In Paris, I'm Nicole Perez, Local 10 News.
And do look for live reports from Nicole Perez leading up to the Normandy landing later on this week.